Okay, this is going on page 29 when we are done. We are going to review dividing polynomials with long division. You also learned how to divide polynomials with synthetic division. We are not going to go over synthetic division because polynomial division will work for every polynomial you need to divide. Synthetic division only works in special cases, and you're way less likely to remember the steps. Okay, so it's still not a bad shortcut to have, but this is really all we need to know, and we're just going to go with this one. So we're going to start by going back in the Wayback Machine to when you divided numbers, like what you started to learn in elementary school, because I want to talk about the process. All right. So if I have 5,467 and I want to divide it by 13, chances are pretty good you're not doing that in your head. So we're going to put 13 on the outside of the little house, and on the inside of the little house, 5,467. Right? Okay, so I take 13. 13 does not divide into 5, but 13 will divide into 54. Not evenly, but I got to figure out what's the closest to the even without going over. It's like the Price is Right. So what's 3 times 13? That's an easy one. 39. So then what's 4 times 13? 52. So probably 4 makes sense, right? So we're going to put a 4 up here. That's what makes this actually more complicated than the ones with the variables, because you have to actually know your multiplication facts here. 4 times 13 is 52. And then what do you do with 54 and 52? Subtract them. So what I want you to think about, what we're actually going to do is we are going to then change the sign on the second row, and then add them, which is subtraction, but the change in the sign is an important part to think about. So that leaves me with a 2, and then I bring down my 6. So how many times does 13 go into 26? Twice. Good. Thank you. Goes in there twice. And then 2 times 13 is 26. Then I change the sign on the second row and combine them, and I get 0. So does that mean my answer is 42? No, because I still need to bring down this 7, right? How many times does 13 go into 7? 0 times. 0 times 13 is 0, and then I get this 7. Okay? So notice lining stuff up appropriately is important. I put the 4 above this 4, not because they matched, but because 13 was going into 54, and then kept on going that way. Now, when you first learn to divide, you would maybe write your answer as 420 with a remainder of 7. Like, that's one way to say it. But how you really write it is you have 420, and then this is your remainder, 7 over this, which is 13. Oh, thank you. Y'all got to knock louder if you want to come in. I thought maybe I heard something, but I wasn't sure. All right. What questions you got? That all makes sense, right? We can do that. If you can do that, you can do everything else we're about to do. And I want you to think about also with fractions, the way we say this is 420 and 7/13, right? And in math means that we're adding. So basically I would take, I don't know, let's talk about cups of flour, which would be a terrible way to actually measure this, but 420, and then I would add another 7/13 of a cup, right? So you basically add your remainder, but when we write our numbers, we don't put a plus sign there, but technically we're adding. You with me on that? Because that's going to help us in a minute. All right, so we're going to take these same steps and apply it over here. And always make sure you remember, because I have to remind myself, that when you do like what I did in pink right here, that you leave yourself room to write above it, because sometimes I forget and then I have to erase. So x plus 4 on the outside. On the inside, I have 3x cubed plus 2x squared minus 37x plus 12. All right. So here's how it works for this, because there's a little bit of a difference, but again, it actually makes it easier. You take the first term inside the house and divide it by the first term outside the house. And when you first learned this, your teacher may have made you write all that stuff down, which I'm not going to make you. I'm going to write it down a couple of times to make sure you understand what's happening, but you definitely don't have to. So if I take 3x cubed and I divide it by x, what am I left with? 3x squared. So I put that above my x squared term, 3x squared. Everybody okay with where all that came from? Now I multiply it back. Just like when we put the 4 here, we multiplied it back by 13. I take 3x squared, multiply it by x. That's 3x cubed, so I put it underneath my x cubed term. But then I also have to multiply 3x squared times 4, and that's a positive 12x squared. Any questions at this point where anything came from? Okay, so now, basically I need to subtract, and you may have originally been taught to put a minus with open parentheses, and that's fine, but when you distribute it, what you are doing is changing the signs on the second row. Okay? And then we combine. These zero out, then I have 2x squared and a negative 12x squared. That leaves me with negative 10x squared. And then I bring down my next term, which is negative 37x. So as long as you don't freak out and make up math, and you pay attention to your signs, because honestly, most of the mistakes that are made through this that will frustrate you have nothing to do with long division. It has more to do with adding and subtracting, like making those mistakes, not that you don't understand what you're doing. Okay, so now once again, we take this first term, and we divide it by x, so negative 10x squared divided by x gives me what? Negative 10x. Good. Then I multiply it back. And if I did it correctly, it should match what that is right there. So negative 10x times x, negative 10x squared. Negative 10x times 4, negative 40x. Then I change the signs on the second row. Then I combine. These zero out. This is a positive 3x, and I bring down my 12, positive 12. That is not a 3x squared. Don't ask me where I got the squared from. That squared does not belong there. There we go. Sorry about that. At least I caught myself. All right, 3x divided by x leaves me with what? 3, and it's a positive 3, so make sure you're putting your signs in there with it so you don't get confused at the end. I multiply it back. I'm going to get 3x plus 12. Then I change the signs on the second row. These zero out, and these zero out. So my answer in the end is 3x squared minus 10x plus 3. What questions do you have? And once again, if you need to, if it helps you, please write this stuff out. It's okay if you have stuff off to the side, 100%. All right? I'm afraid if I put too much up here, y'all can't even pay attention to what else I'm doing. Now, I want you to think about how multiplication and division works, just to wrap your mind around this. If I take this 3x cubed, if I take this long one, and I divide it by this short one, then I get the medium one, right? So if I take the short one and the medium one, and I multiply them back together, what am I going to get? The long one, right? Because if I did 6 divided by 3 equals 2, right? Then that means that 2 times 3 gives me 6, yes? So think about that, because basically, I've kind of just factored this. Like if they told me, because we'll get to something kind of like this, so I'm just going to throw it out right now. They told me basically that this is a factor because it divided evenly. So I've basically factored that out, so this times this gives me this right here, and then I could maybe try and factor that more and move on, okay? We're not doing that right now, we're just doing division, but I'm basically kind of breaking it down. Right. What questions you got? We good? All right, so we're going to do a couple more together because a couple of little things are different, and I want to show you that it's all good. So what we did here, what we divided by, that leading coefficient was 1. I could totally do synthetic division with this pretty simply. A question like 5, I could force into synthetic division, but I'd have a ton of fractions, and you probably don't want to do that. But because my leading term is not 1, but that's okay. Still work the same way. So I put 2x plus 7 outside, and then inside I have 2x cubed plus 5x squared minus 19x minus 42. And when you're dividing with polynomials, it looks way worse than just with numbers, but I really think in the end, if you wrap your mind around it, it's actually kind of easier. All right, so I take this first term, 2x cubed divided by 2x. What does that leave me with? X squared. So I put it above my x squared term. Then I multiply back. X squared times 2x is 2x cubed. X squared times 7, 7x squared. Then I change the signs on the second row. These zero out. 5x squared minus 7x squared is a negative 2x squared minus 19x. Everybody with me? All right, so then I take negative 2x squared divided by 2x. What is that going to give me? Negative x. Good. Negative x. Then I multiply that back. Negative x times 2x, negative 2x squared. Negative x times 7, negative 7x. Then I do what? Change the signs on the second row. Yes. These zero out. Negative 19x plus 7x gives me a negative 12x. I bring down my negative 42. Negative 12x divided by 2x is negative 6. So then I get negative 12x minus 42. I change the signs on the second row. Those zero out and those zero out. Now, will we always end with a zero remainder? No, but I'm doing that right now so we can look at a few different things and then we'll talk about what happens when that doesn't happen. So my answer here is x squared minus x minus 6. What questions do you have? We all good? Yes? All right, so this one's a little bit different still because I have an x squared term here. Could not use synthetic division on this. So long division is my only option anyway. So x squared plus 8. Actually, I need to move that over just a little bit. I think this one's kind of long. Let me move over. X squared plus 8. And it divides into x to the 4th plus 3x cubed plus 4x squared plus 24x minus 32. Okay. All right, so I take x to the 4th and I divide it by x squared, and what do I get? X squared. So you have to put it above the x squared term. You need to line them up, right? So then I take x squared times x squared. That gives me x to the 4th. I got to line that up also. Then x squared times 8 is 8x squared. Line that up correctly. It's a positive 8x squared. That's what it should look like right now. We got a space in there because you have to line them up. Otherwise, you can't combine them correctly. Then we change the signs on the second row, right? Now, basically what we have here is like a 0x cubed. We don't have to write it, but I can't ignore the 3x cubed that's up there. So this is going to zero out, and then basically you have 3x cubed plus 0, so this is 3x cubed. Then 4x squared minus 8x squared is negative 4x squared, and then I have to bring down this 24x. Any questions at this point? Understand where everything came from? All right, so now 3x cubed divided by x squared leaves me with what? 3x. And so I put a positive 3x, and then I multiply them back. 3x times x squared, 3x cubed. 3x times 8, positive 24x. Make sure they are lined up appropriately. Then I change the signs on the second row. These zero out. Negative 4x squared plus 0 is negative 4x squared. These zero out, and I can't forget about my minus 32. Everybody with me so far? So now I take negative 4x squared divided by x squared, and I get what? Negative 4. Multiply it back, so I get negative 4x squared. And then negative 4 times 8 is a negative 32. I change the signs on both. These zero out, these zero out. I got another remainder of 0. So my answer is x squared plus 3x minus 4. What questions do you have? Knocking the cobwebs off, right? Because I believe now you start polynomial long division in Algebra 1. I don't know that you spend that much time in it, but it is part of Algebra 1, and then you definitely do it in Algebra 2. All right, number 7. All right, so what to do when we get a non-zero remainder. So I'm just going to give you a heads up. That's what's going to happen here. So we got our x plus 1 on the outside. Inside, we've got 3x cubed plus 7x squared plus 2x minus 7. Okay. So then I take 3x cubed divided by x. What do I get? 3x squared. So I put it above the x squared term. 3x squared times x, 3x cubed. 3x squared times 1, positive 3x squared. Then what do? Change the signs. Change the signs on the second row. All right, so then these zero out, and 7x squared minus 3x squared is 4x squared. And I bring down my positive 2x. Okay. 4x squared divided by x leaves me with 4x. Good. Multiply those back, I get 4x squared plus 4x. And I change the signs on the second row. Don't forget to change the signs. These zero out. 2x and a negative 4x is a negative 2x. Bring down my negative 7. Negative 2x divided by x, negative 2. So negative 2x minus 2. Then I change the signs on the second row. Those zero out, and I'm left with a negative 5. And I can't go any farther. So what this tells me also, because this is another thing we're going to look at eventually, is that x plus 1 is not a factor of this 3x cubed equation because it didn't divide in there evenly. Make sense? But we need to divide there are reasons that we actually need this. So How do we write our answer? Well, we write what's up there, 3x squared plus 4x minus 2. And then let's go back to, you don't have to flip yours over, just pay attention to mine here. When we wrote this, we wrote down what was up there, and then we had our remainder over what we divided by. That's what's going to happen here. But remember, you add your remainder. If I have 1.5 cups of something, I can dump in 1 cup, and then I add half a cup, right? But we just don't put the plus sign. Here, I have to put the plus sign. And you are always adding the remainder. I don't care what this sign is. Then you take whatever this is, and you put it over whatever that is. Sorry, it's all crammed together. Now, if you put minus and then made that a positive 5, on this particular question, it would still be correct. However, if your numerator is more than one term and you don't take other precautions, sometimes you won't be right. So the safest thing to do is always add it just like you would in just mixed numbers, and then just use whatever's there over whatever's there, and then you don't have to worry about it. Okay? What questions do you have? All right, then I want you all to work on number 8 on your own. We'll let you get through it on your own, and then we'll talk about it. What's going on here? So then write them down. Write out 6x cubed over 3x over 3x. Now reduce that. Yep. Keep going. Write it down every time if you need to. Okay, I know some of you aren't finished, but okay, I kind of ran short on time last period, so I want to make sure I have enough time. So I'm going to work through this with you because some of you have the right answer. Some of you have the same wrong answer as other people, which I expect that wrong answer, and we'll talk about why you get it here in just a minute. And then there's another kind of common wrong thing I saw also. All right. So I take 6x cubed divided by 3x. That gives me 2x squared. I think we were all on the same page there. So 2x squared times 3x, 6x cubed minus 4x squared. Then I change the signs on both. Right? Those zero out. This gives me a negative 9x squared. And I bring this guy down plus 12x. I think we were even probably mostly on the same page there as well. Negative 9x squared divided by 3x is negative 3x. So then I get negative 9x squared plus 6x. And then I change the signs on both so that these zero out. 12x minus 6x is 6x. And I bring down my 6. 3x divided by 6x is 2. So then this gives me 6x minus 4. And I change the signs on both. Those zero out. This gives me 10. So here's one very common wrong thing I see, is this number being 6 right here. And I'm pretty sure the reason it happens is because you forget to change the signs here, and you end up with 18x, and that's what would give you a 6 there. So that might be what happened to you. I also saw at least one person that had a negative 2. So make sure you understand why you have the wrong numbers. Is it because you added or subtracted wrong? Because last period, somebody was like, I cannot figure out why I got what I got. And he had changed his signs. His looked exactly like this, but then he put 2. Even though he knew he was supposed to add, he just subtracted. I mean, things like that are going to happen. It's just human nature. But so we get 2x squared minus 3x plus 2 plus the remainder of 10 over 3x minus 2. Okay. Everybody okay with that? Even if you didn't get that 100% on your own, did you catch where things went a little haywire? Okay, good. Any questions at all? All right, we're going to do the next one together because it looks a whole lot worse. We've got 3 terms we've got to divide by, a quadratic now, but just because they look worse, and we really won't have a need to do anything like this intense. It's not even really that intense, but this year, but I'm throwing it in there anyway because maybe one day you will, and I want you to see that you don't have to be afraid of it. It literally works the exact same way. So we've got x squared minus x minus 5, and I'm going to divide that into x to the 4th minus 5x cubed plus x squared plus 20x minus 10. Okay. All right. So x to the 4th divided by x squared gives me what? X squared. So I have to put it above the x squared term. Make sure stuff is lined up. X squared times x squared, x to the 4th, then minus x squared, nope, minus x cubed. Oh, x squared times x is x cubed, minus 5x squared. Then I change the signs on the second row. Change every single sign you see. These zero out. Negative 5x cubed minus x cubed is negative 4x cubed plus 6x squared. And I bring down my 20x. Okay, everybody with me? Negative 4x squared divided by x squared is what? Negative 4. So that means that this is going to be over here minus 4, like that. Oh, wait. What did I do wrong? Oh my God, I did it again. Jeez Louise. What did I do wrong? Where's my mistake? It's 4x cubed. Don't ask me where. I keep trying to make that squared. Never mind. So I don't actually get negative 4. I get negative 4 what? X. And then I actually line it up over the x term. Sorry about that. Negative 4x times x squared. Negative 4x cubed. Negative 4x times negative x. Positive 4x squared. Negative 4x times negative 5, positive 20x. Then I change the signs on the second row. Mind that. This gives me 10x squared. These zero out, and then I bring down my negative 10. And just bring it straight down. Don't cram them together. Did I do something wrong? Did it again. What did I do? Is that wrong? Oh my God. It's minus. I did that last period too, by the way. Just so you know. I'm just dumb all around. Okay. 6x squared minus 4x squared, because I changed the sign and it's in bright pink right in front of my face, and I still did it wrong. Thank God it's Friday. 2x squared. But do you see what I mean? Like, it's not that I don't know how to divide polynomials. It's the adding and subtracting that's throwing me off. So is it likely to maybe throw y'all off too? Probably. I mean, things happen, right? All right. Now do we agree with me? All right. So now I'm going to take 2x squared and divide it by x squared. That gives me a positive 2, I hope. Right on that. So I get 2x squared. Now notice there's this space here. Technically there's like a 0x here. I didn't write it, and that's fine. But I've got 2 times negative x. I still need that space there because I got that negative 2x. And then 2 times a negative 5 is a negative 10. Then I change the signs on the second row. I zero this out. 0 plus 2x is 2x, and then this zeroes out. So I'm just left with a 2x. So my answer then is x squared minus 4x plus 2 plus the remainder, which is a fraction, which is 2x over x squared minus x minus 5. Okay. Can I cancel this x with this x right here? No. Heck no, don't do that. With adding and subtracting, you can't do it. If I got multiplication, we could discuss it, but no. If I was able to reduce that fraction there, then I didn't do something right in the other thing that I did. Okay? What questions do we have? Okay, so we know how to divide. We know how to handle a remainder. Now we got to look at what to do when we have a missing term. Let's look at number 10. All right, so number 10, we've got x to the 4th minus 64x squared plus 9x minus 80. I am missing an x cubed term. You see that? Oh, it's not there. And if I'm missing a term on what I'm dividing by, that doesn't matter at all. On the front, we had x squared plus 8. We didn't have an x term. Doesn't matter. If it's on the outside, doesn't matter at all. So x minus 8 is on the outside. On the inside, though, you have to put a placeholder. So I'm going to start with x to the 4th. Next, I have to write an x cubed term. If I don't have one, which I don't, then I put plus 0x cubed. Then I have an x squared term. Then I have an x term. And then I have a constant. Even if the constant is missing, you would need a 0 at the end. The good thing is, if you're really diligent about lining things up like you're supposed to, and you forget to do that, you will catch yourself because you won't have somewhere to line something up. Okay? All right. So then we have, I'm going to take x to the 4th divided by x. That gives me x cubed, right? So I have to put it above my x cubed term. And I would already be able to catch myself if I don't even have one. Right? I go, oop, forgot to do that, and then I could start over. So then x cubed times x to the 4th, and then x cubed minus 8, negative 8x cubed. See, got to have them lined up there. Then I change the signs on the second row. Those zero out. This gives me 8x cubed. Bring this down, minus 64x squared. Okay. Then 8x cubed divided by x is what? 8x squared. So I'd get a positive 8x squared. So I get 8x cubed minus 64x squared. I change the signs on the second row. This zeroes out. This zeroes out. I bring down my 9x. And then since they both zeroed out, I also need to go ahead and bring down my minus 80. 9x divided by x gives me what? 9. And so I line it up, and it's a positive 9. I line it up above my constant term. Basically, I have a 0x term in there, but I don't have to write it. But I'm lining that up. It's okay if you skip a term up there, as long as you're doing everything legally. So this gives me 9x minus 72. I change the signs on Everything on the second row zeroes out, and I get a negative 8. So my answer then is x cubed plus 8x squared plus 9, right? I don't have to put the plus 0x, plus negative 8 over x minus 8. What questions you got? We good? Don't forget about that term. All right. You start working on 11. I'm going to hand out your assignment, and then I'll give you a minute, and then I'll start working through it. When you're done, you can check yourself with me. If we do not agree and you cannot figure out where things went off the track, let me know and I can maybe help you figure out what wonky little thing you did. All right? Any questions at this point? All righty.